Hello! More Best Books of the Year lists have been coming out recently from various different publications, and just recently I saw the newspaper, The Independent, published their top fiction of 2024, where the journalists picked 23 books that they wanted to highlight, and I thought this was a good list of books because I've read a number of these books. Others have been sitting on my TBR pile, so this is a good encouragement for me to get to them, and a few of them I hadn't heard of before. So I'm going to go through this list and give brief summaries of all of the books, and if I have any thoughts or feelings about them, I would love to know in the comments if you have read any of these books and if you would recommend them as well, if you count them among your top books of the year, or if you're interested in reading any of them now. So to start off, the very first novel they mention, of course, which I think is absolutely one of the top books of the year, is James by Percival Everett, which has been talked about so much, but rightfully so, and because there is so much to say about this story, which takes the character of Jim from the adventures of Huckleberry Finn and shows the events of that novel from his point of view. So the incidents when he is with Huck, but then also when he is away from him, and so we follow him as they travel down the Mississippi together, and he tries to evade capture because he's an escaped slave, and he's establishing an independent sense of himself, separate from the life he fled, but also he's longing for a connection with his family again. But it's also so poignant how it depicts his connection with Huck and the allowances he makes for Huck, and understanding that Huck was raised in a particular situation, so has kind of ideas about the world, which he's like steadily trying to unpick and form a genuine connection with him over time. And I just found it so like beautiful and funny and devastating. And it didn't win this year's Booker Prize, although it's still shortlisted for the National Book Award in America, which will be announced very soon. So hopefully it'll still win more prizes and be nominated for more prizes and continue to be celebrated. Butter by Asako Yuzuki and translated by Polly Barton. This is a novel about a gourmet chef in Japan who kills a businessman and has been incarcerated for that. And everyone is asking why she did this, but she's not being forthcoming about her reasons and motives. But a journalist contacts her seeking out a recipe, and through food and recipes is able to form a connection with her, and so it's about this kind of tense mystery, but also the joy and pleasures of food. Lots of readers keep discussing this novel. It keeps being highlighted on various lists like this. The author won the Books Are My Bag Breakthrough Author Award just the other night. So when a book keeps being talked about like this, it does make me curious to try it, just to see what I think for myself. Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. This is a novel set during a very hot summer in 2019 and follows a circle of people, of friends and lovers and family members, and their various connections and disconnections with each other over this period of time. And also there is a whale that is kind of stuck in the Thames in London. So it follows them through their like misadventures through the city. And I found this really poignant and engaging, and kind of dealing with a lot of modern issues, and also the messiness of all of these characters' lives. It's called Evenings and Weekends because it describes how our lives can, be distilled when we are so caught up in our work lives that we're left just really living for the evenings and weekends. And so it's kind of like examining this like work-life balance as well as the complexities of relationships. The Coin by Yasmin Zaher. And this is a novel that I've only become aware of through lists like this. And so it follows a Palestinian woman living in New York City who teaches underprivileged boys. And she feels overwhelmed by everything going on in the world and in her personal life. And so this translates into her obsessively cleaning things and really attaching to these notions of purity. And since it keeps being talked about, this is a novel that I really want to get a copy of. Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. This novel follows three sisters who have been estranged from each other, who reunite in their family home in New York City after their beloved fourth sister has died. So it's about grief and identity and the complexities of family. And so many people have been talking about this novel and this author who I've never read. So yeah, I'd really like to try this book as well. It's all just about finding the time to do so, isn't it? Caledonian Road by Andrew Hagen. This is set in London in 2021. It's funny how there's some novels here like set it's very specific times in London, but this is quite an epic story which primarily follows a art academic and a celebrity pundit who has reached a certain stage of his career and level of privilege where he's really feeling the pressure to maintain his lifestyle and his public image, but then things gradually unravel over time, and we follow him and the various people he is connected to on many different layers of society and through many different corners of London. And so yeah, this is a great epic story. I read this with my online book club. We had lots of great discussions about it. It's so rich in detail and really capturing the complexity of the politics of our current time period. I even took a journey up to Caledonian Road itself in North London to walk down the street to see the environment that Andrew Hagen is creating in this novel and the square where the protagonist lives. Private Rites by Julia Armfield. This novel also follows three sisters who reunite in their family home, but in this novel after their father has died, but also they live in this kind of dystopian world where it has been raining for a very long time. So it's very soggy, very damp, and then we follow the different strands of their stories, but also revelations that occur when the will of their deceased father is read out. So this is kind of a play on Shakespeare's King Lear, and I have been really meaning to get to this novel because I've loved Julia Armfield's fiction that I've read before, her short story collection Salt Slow, but also her novel Our Wives Under the Sea. So really looking forward to this. The House of Broken Bricks by Fiona Williams, and I'm so glad that this novel that came out earlier this year is being highlighted and celebrated in this way because I found it incredibly moving. So it's the story of a mixed race family where there are two sons who have very different skin colors, and so people around them in their small community in England react to them in very different ways and to their family, but this family has become broken, and we follow the different perspectives of these four different family members of the sons and the mother and the father and gradually learn what happened to their family. And it is so heart-wrenching but also beautiful, the language in this and the way that the author creates this sense of environment and place. It's a very powerful debut novel. The Ministry of Time by Kaliane Bradley, a much hyped debut novel which does many things, that it's a time travel romance, it's a workplace comedy, it's a spy thriller, but also it's looking at different power relationships in our society, and it's about a woman who becomes a minder for a man, an Arctic explorer who has been brought into this near future time period as a kind of experiment for this government body, the Ministry of Time, that has discovered the secrets of time travel. And some readers have found this novel tries to do too much all at the same time, but I really got into the story and found it very enjoyable. Headshot by Rita Bullwinkel. This novel follows 8 teenage girl boxers who have entered into a competition, and we follow them as they go head-to-head against each other. So the immediacy and tension of their fights, but also looking at their backstories, how they came to this place, but also where they go to in the future. So I really enjoyed how this narrative balances these shifts in time and between following the different points of view of the girls as they're involved in this competition. And I just found it a really beautiful exploration of coming of age and figuring out what you want in the world, but also the situation of young women in America today. Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, another much hyped novel about 2 Irish brothers who are quite different ages from each other and who have been somewhat estranged from each other, but how they are grieving for their father who has recently died. And so it's about the tension of their connection with one another and the different levels of this family relationship, but also about the messy romantic relationships that each of the brothers are having, and just how it followed these characters and their deep conversations with each other. I found to be really poignant, and it's been wonderful. I've heard from a number of readers recently who were kind of put off from Sally Rooney, but gave reading this novel a try and really enjoyed it. Real Americans by Rachel Khong, and this is a novel following 3 generations of a Chinese American family and at different periods of time, and so kind of tracing how the past is impacting upon their present and the formation of their American identity. So this is a novel I've been really wanting to get to, that a lot of people have been highlighting. I've read Rachel Khong before, her novel Goodbye Vitamin, which I found really powerful, so looking forward to finally getting to this. You Are Here by David Nicholls. This novel follows 2 individuals who are somewhat adrift in their lives, but they meet and they go on a hike together, and so it's following their different stories, but also their connection with each other. I heard the author read from this earlier this year, and it was absolutely hilarious and really engaging. And I was just talking to a reader last night who said that she read this as a kind of her treat book, and it was absolutely perfect for that. This is How You Remember It by Catherine Prasifka. This novel follows an individual who has spent their entire life, their childhood and adolescence online, and their kind of experience has always been mediated through this. So it's a romance, but also about trying to find another way of existing and living in the world. So it sounds like a very timely and relevant novel. I don't think I'd heard of it before this list, but I'd be keen to read this. Green Dot by Madeleine Gray. This is another very modern novel about a young woman who finds it very difficult to reach and achieve her potential. It's a messy love story, and I've heard mention of this book before and heard great things about it. Think Again by Jacqueline Wilson. This novel follows Jacqueline Wilson's characters from a series of books where she wrote about the childhood of these girls, but now follows them into their adulthood and the challenges and obstacles they face living as adults. So this seems like a book very much for people who have loved Jacqueline Wilson's books in the past. I've never read anything by her, so I'm not sure how much I would get out of this novel, but everything I've seen about Jacqueline Wilson in all of her interviews, she just seems like the loveliest human ever. Shy Creatures by Claire Chambers. I'm so glad this novel is being highlighted because I found it incredibly moving. It's set in London in 1964, following a woman who's an art therapist at a psychiatric hospital, and how she is having an affair with a doctor there. But they discover a man who's been living as a recluse for many, many years, and this man kind of comes into the custody of the hospital, and so it's about the mystery of this man's past, who's silent and but has great artistic ability, and so it's following the mystery of his life and his family past, but also the present day lives of this couple and their messy relationship. And yeah, I just found it so beautiful. There's so much great period detail in this, but I'm also getting at the subtle emotions of these characters. And also I have this beautiful special edition of the book that has these gorgeous sprayed edges. The Hypocrite by Jo Hamya. This novel is set in 2020 between London and Sicily, and is about a father and daughter relationship where the father was once a prominent novelist, but has experienced a fall from grace, and how his daughter has turned that story into a play. So it's about the tension between this father and daughter, and I've heard great things about this novel. Jo Hamya used to be one of the presenters of the Booker Prize podcast, and I was on a panel with her and Jack Edwards at the Booker Prize ceremony last year, so I've been meaning to get to this novel. All Fours by Miranda July, another novel that's got a lot of attention this year from lists like this and book prizes. It's also currently shortlisted for the National Book Award, and it follows a female artist of moderate reputation who decides to leave her family and life behind to go on a road trip, but then gets diverted, and I've heard it's like quite a wild story, and I'm really not sure what to expect from this book, because it keeps getting sort of attention like this, but then I've heard from many readers that have been disappointed by it. But I've read Miranda July's fiction in the past and seen her films, so I think I kind of know what to expect from it, and I'm looking forward to reading it just as kind of a pleasure, hopefully a kind of pleasurable read. Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner, another novel that was shortlisted for this year's Booker Prize but did not win, but is another novel that I read with my online book club, and that we had such great discussions about, because slightly deceptive in its marketing, that it's kind of purported to be like a spy thriller, and it is a very engaging story, but doesn't have kind of follow the generic conventions that you would expect from a spy novel. But it follows a woman who calls herself Sadie, who is a spy that infiltrates a French commune of activists, and to try to set them up for the company that has hired her. And so it follows the tension of that story, and how she is really a person with a lot more faults than she would readily admit. She likes to drink a lot, and has a lot of things about her life that she's been suppressing. But it's also about a guru of this commune, and how she is reading the messages he has been sending to the commune, and how she is growing increasingly engaged by his ideas about early life and Neanderthals and where civilization is going. So it's a very intriguing story, and at least I found it oftentimes very enjoyable. Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. This novel is set in 412 BC in Sicily, and how there are captured Athenian soldiers who work with some local potters, reciting lines from Euripides in order to survive and to get food. I've heard this is quite a comic novel, but also a really moving one, and it's been getting a lot of attention. It won the Waterstones debut fiction prize and has been highlighted by various people. So it's another novel that has been on my shelf ever since it came out, and I just haven't got around to it for some reason. I think we all have books like that just sort of sit on ourselves for ages, even though we're really anticipating them. But hopefully I'll read it before the end of the year. My favorite mistake by Marian Keyes. This is a novel about a woman who seems to have it all, that she has an amazing apartment in New York City, a great partner, a really high-flying job, but then she goes through a midlife crisis and she packs it all in and she moves to Ireland. So it's following the drama of her story. I've never read Marian Keyes, but also she is another author that just seems like the most delightful person. And I'm sure this book would be an absolute pleasure to read. And finally, there is I'm Effing Amazing by Anushka Warden. And this is a novel about a woman who in the past has always really enjoyed sex, but in her 30s and after settling down with a really great boyfriend, she finds that sex is very difficult for her, and so it's working through the physical and mental challenges of this. So I've never heard of this book before, but it's meant to be hilariously funny, but also frank in its observations about life and intimacy. Those are the top fiction books on this particular list, but do let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books, or if you're interested in reading any of them now, or want to encourage me to get to them sooner rather than later. I would love to hear about that, or if you want to highlight any other best fiction from the past year that you want to let me know about. But I hope you're doing well and reading good things. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.